5 things that will annoy the living fuck out of an avoidant person, whether that's dismissive or fearful. Before I say these things, I want you to understand that if you did do these things or are doing them in your current relationship, it's not your fault. These are not necessarily bad things. They are just things that feel annoying to an avoidant person. Number 1 is pressure. Avoidants really struggle with feeling pressured because when pressure is added to the relationship, it kind of puts a timeline on the avoidance reciprocation. Pressure in the relationship is usually added when the 2 people are building that relationship and the avoidance partner feels like maybe the avoidant is not catching up at the same rate. What's hard for the avoidant is that they can already sense this. They can already sense that their partner is a little bit more evolved emotionally, and the avoidant already feels that pressure on their own. They feel like, oh no, why can't I reciprocate? Why am I struggling with this? So when their partner adds more pressure, for instance, when are we going to move in together? How come I haven't met your family yet? Why don't we spend enough time together? You always have to be working so much. When are you going to buy me flowers? You know, these types of things. These are not necessarily bad things to ask. It just adds pressure onto an avoidant person because now they're like, oh, there's timeline around this. My partner is needing me to do this soon, and they really don't like this feeling. It's actually going to cause them to start sabotaging. Number 2, obligation. Because avoidants are so hyper independent and prioritize their autonomy over everything, it is really hard for them to feel obligated to people. It's also difficult for them because what usually comes before obligation is some type of constructive criticism, which is really difficult for an avoidant. If they're feeling obligated to do something, that's probably because their partner brought something to the table. Maybe their partner said, I really need you to start buying me flowers. I feel really ignored when it's Valentine's Day or my birthday and you don't get me any flowers. Now the avoidant feels obligated to get their partner flowers. Now for a normal secure person, they might be like, oh yeah, that's fine. I hear that you have this need. I'll definitely get you flowers next time. But for an avoidant person, what they're thinking is, that is a really vulnerable act. That makes me feel weird. That makes me feel cringe. I don't want to do that. It's almost like this strange vulnerability in fulfilling someone's obligation. Like, imagine if your partner asks you to do some very specific sexual act, okay? And you're like, okay, noted, they like that. And then the next time you guys go to do it, you're thinking, okay, now I have to perform this very specific act. Even if you like want to do it because you want to make them happy, it's so vulnerable. You feel like all eyes are on you and you didn't think of this idea. This isn't just something you're doing to like make them happy or fun. It's something they're asking you to do. And so that can be really scary for avoidants. Number 3 is feeling like you are relying on them way too much. Again, avoidant people prioritize their hyper independence over everything. And because they have always needed to be hyper independent to survive the world, they view others as needing to be independent as well. When they get into a relationship with someone and their partner is constantly depending on them for things, that gets very annoying for them. They start to kind of lose respect for their partner. Like, why can't you do these things on your own? Why do you always need me to come to your rescue? It can also make them feel very suffocated because a lot of avoidant people in childhood, specifically avoidant men, had really like stressed out, overwhelmed mothers. And a lot of these avoidant men, when they were little boys, had to take on the role of like taking care of their stressed out mom, right? So when they get into relationships with women, when those women start depending on them in the same ways that their mother did, that is really triggering to them. Number 4 is your emotions. Avoidants are highly skilled at repressing their emotions, pushing them down, avoiding them, running from them, etc. It's very scary for them to open up and express true deep emotions in front of another person. So when they see you doing that in front of them, it makes them very uncomfortable and it makes them feel irritated. And I believe the underlying feeling that maybe they don't even realize this. They're feeling annoyed on the surface, but the underlying feeling is shame because they don't know how to comfort you. And it's very difficult for them to access empathy in that moment. Like, they may be able to access more kind of logical empathy, like, okay, I can understand that you're feeling upset, but it's very difficult for them to access like actual empathy and to feel what you're feeling on the level that you're feeling it. They look at you being like upset or crying as a reflection of things that they're doing, and they really don't know how to make you feel better because you crying in front of them or you having a deep emotion is vulnerability, and they're not good at vulnerability. And number 5 is conflict/constructive criticism. Time you bring something to the table and you let the avoidant know that you have certain unmet needs, they tend to take that as like an attack. They may not say that to you. A lot of times they'll just appease you and be like, yeah, I hear you, I'll work on that. What they're thinking underneath is, I'm not good enough. I'm not measuring up. This person is going to leave me at some point. Because like I said in another video, bad argument equals bad relationship. They think in very all or nothing terms. Like, everything has to be going perfect all the time. We have to have no fights, no arguments. I have to be showing up perfectly strong and capable in every moment. So when my partner starts to have things that they need from me that I'm not doing for them, I feel like I'm messing up. I feel like I'm not measuring up to what they need. And what that means is they're going to leave me at some point. They're going to reject me.